And good morning from, I guess that's the high altitude headquarters, the nest of all being, creation, and all that sort of stuff. I haven't been making too many little videogs or whatever they call them, vloggers. That's because I've had nothing to issue about, and winter's everything's snowed in, and I can't go to my regular place, and I'm stuck here. Oh, a long story. Anyways, it's about the Lavalin affair, SNC Lavalin. Well, it's one of those weird things, I don't buy it. It's wrong for them to entertain the thought or pressure. I call her whaleboat. Wilson Raybould, the woman who couldn't handle justice. Well, she couldn't handle the pressure. I mean, that's the job. Old company, like if you're SNC Lavalin, you're going to approach the friggin' government to try to get, reduced charges. It's perfectly within their rights. I don't care as long as it isn't a secret. And I guess it isn't now. And a lot of companies do that. A lot of people do that. I did it. That's the job of a politician, an MP, is to listen to all this stuff and try to be a solver. And unfortunately, the Prime Minister's riding is also the same in Montreal, is also the same city headquarters as SNC Lavalin. So by rights, he had full rights to go approach and be very strong with Wilson Raybould. But I don't think this is a smokescreen, man. I've been around politics, for quite a long time, and I'm old. So I think she was sucker played, and she doesn't realize it. And so was her good friend and pal, Philpott. They said, oh, she's a good lady. Well, I don't doubt it for a minute. But they're right next to being lesbians, for cripe's sakes. I mean, they're palsy-walsy. I mean, it's their best buddies. Of course, Philpott was going to back her up. But nobody else is going to. And I think that will go away, too. Oh, there'll be a lesson for this for Trudeau. I'm not impressed recently. But let's look at several things here. Why do I say that Lavalin is a smokescreen? First off, you have Scheer, and you have Singh, and you have the Green Party, or whatever her name is, May sometimes. Do you mean to tell me, seriously, do you mean to tell me that they would refuse to hear a company that has tens of thousands of Canadians and billions of dollars worth of assets and projects all over Canada? You're not going to give them a hearing? You mean you're going to shut your friggin' door and say, well, we're not going to interfere in a church, blah, 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 court case? Of course you are. Scheer's not sincere. And neither is the friggin' media, by the way. They've got an agenda. Because they're all owned by Post Media, and they're very influenced by that guy, Paul Godfrey. So this is why I'm saying it's phony. Maybe I should break it up, this little set of observations. I think this summer, going into election, the Liberals are going to have a tough time getting the pipelines past the courts again. And this time they're not going to take any prisoners. I can't help but note, and so would the Liberals, that ever since Wilson Raybould took over Justice Ministry, the federal government... See, when the federal government bought Kinder Morgan, to help out the West. When they say Trudeau isn't helping, I don't know why they're getting at. But he bought they had a history of a good trial record against the protesters. When it came up to the federal minister, though, they didn't do so good. Jody Wilson-Raybould was the justice minister. So doesn't it find you kind of strange that they're going into this summer season with all these pipeline rulings and treaty rulings against the First Nations? I have a funny feeling they want to get Raybould out of there so that they can start winning court cases, because she's the one who picked the lawyers. They're blaming her for losing all those court actions. It's just strange that they lost it all of a sudden. So don't say that there's no political interference, because she was interfering with the path of the legal defense available to the federal government. The record's there. It's in black and white, I guess. I hope. Okay, so they're going to get that pipeline passed this summer and through the courts. They don't want Wilson-Raybould in that position to pick the lawyers to take that to court. And I believe that's the real reason, because they can smooth over Lavalin. So they just applied a little bit of pressure, because she strikes me as kind of a diva. No, she is a diva. And they knew she'd crack. They know how to crack people. And they didn't want to give the real excuse that she was working with the First Nations in rigging the results, or sending the crappy lawyers, or the lawyers who weren't fully briefed on the file. They wanted to win the court actions. They couldn't do it with Raybould there. That would be a bigger fuss. That would be a huge scandal, right? Lavalin they can cover up, because everybody's going to give Lavalin a break, as long as it isn't a secret, right? That's the other level. See, I think a scandal is one that has been kept a secret. This hasn't been kept a secret, very badly, and it's very well out in the open. So that's why I think it's smoke and mirrors. And then Philpott comes along and decides to lesbian up with her friend, and, well, she quit. So it's not a problem. They're going into an election, and it's going to be a tough one. Why? Because print media. Most of print media in Canada is conservative, and it's run by something called Post Media. Post Media is run by used to be at least, run by Paul Godfrey. In 2016, they approached the federal government for a handout. They wanted, their print industry suffering, and they're not getting their limousines. They can't afford the limousines to drive the executives around to all their friggin' meetings or stuff like that. And Paul Godfrey was all upset. Well, the Trudeau government said, "You're the press." No. Because it's really, they don't know what they're spending money, and they keep attacking the government. But ever since Trudeau said no to Sun Media, or Post Media, they've been attacking him. And that includes CTV, which is a conservative outfit, Global, which has a lot of conservatives, Question Period, which has a lot of conservatives. You really look at it, Post Media has, I like fair reporting. Now, there's been problems with the Trudeau government. He's definitely not his old man. He's definitely not Pierre. And whether you like Pierre or not, he was a brilliant politician. And Justin isn't, he's a good one. He's not a bad one. He's certainly better than Harper. But ever since then, ever since the Liberals rejected him, they haven't had a good report from Post Media, anytime. And that's surprising, because there's good things to write about. That government in just 3 years, negotiated three very important international trade agreements, the TPP, the renegotiation of NAFTA, which is the USMCA or whatever they call it, the renegotiation with the Americans over NAFTA, and CETA, which is the Canadian-European trade agreement. They did it all in 3 years in the history of Canada. Those three trade agreements, we don't need China. Fuck them. They're serious. Fuck them. But without those three trade agreements, we'd also be more dependent on the U.S., we'd be more dependent on China, and they did a brilliant job. So no matter what happens, that should be in their camp. That should be to their credit. Because Harper never did anything in 10 years about that. Now, the Canadian government also went out. It needed 3 icebreakers quick. So instead of waiting for them to be built or waiting for the shipyards to become, they went out and bought 3 necessary icebreakers that were sitting in, I guess, Finland for a while, or Sweden or whatever. And they were really good icebreakers, you know, class 3 or class 1 or whatever. The biggest you can get. Well, not the biggest, just under. But they went out and got them. So, but you see, there's nothing positive. You want fair reporting. Post Media has never reported fair. So they suckered in for this Lavalin deal, like, oh, we got him now, we got him now, we got him now. Okay, you got him now. But the problem is, you and I, we don't care what Lavalin does. We know what Lavalin is doing, because we do the same damn thing. It's when it's being done in secret. Now, Jody never went to court, so the premise that they interfered in court is wrong. They attempted to. There's nothing. Hey, you can attempt to speed, but you can't be charged with attempting to speed in a highway. That's my point. And politics is like that. You're going to have influences all over the place, and that's your job. If you can't handle it, get the hell out of the fire. And that's what they did. She's a diva. And she's behaving like a diva. I think she realizes that she no longer, when she got over Veterans Affairs, hell, Veterans Affairs for a politician is either very good or very bad. What can go wrong when you can hand over money to people, which is what Veterans Affairs does. All they have to do is go around and work hard, and the veterans will recognize it. They are cranky and they are wounded, and sometimes they're not too kind. But as long as you're sincere and working at it, and that's not hard to do. In her case, maybe it is hard to do because she was working for the First Nations all the time, which isn't bad, but you gotta win some court actions here. You gotta go against your own people sometimes, especially in court. So she was interfering in court. She complained about her being influenced by somebody else about Lavalin because Lavalin was threatening to move. And if I was Lavalin, I would damn well move right now. Bye-bye. You know, if you're going to make a threat, you better back it up. So what I'm saying is, this Lavalin deal, by summer, I think it's going to be mostly gone. And Trudeau hasn't really started campaigning yet. But he does make a lot of excuses. But here's a lesson for Trudeau and anybody else who runs for politics from now on. Women are part of the process, and that is terrific. But whenever you pick a politician for a tough job like a cabinet post, like you're not being voted in, you're being selected. Next time, don't pick your cabinet based on gender. Don't look for a balance of half and half. If two-thirds of if your MPs are men, then two-thirds of your friggin' cabinet's got to be men. Because that's the only way. You need guys with talent and skill. Freeland has got talent and skill. Not even a problem. She's going to be the next prime minister. And that could also be what Philpott wants. Because Philpott realizes that if Trudeau goes out, then Freeland is going to be the next one to bat because she's fantastic. And I didn't like her to begin with. But she does a fantastic job for Canada. And she would make an excellent prime minister. Probably even better than Trudeau, by the way. But Philpott knows this, so she's hitching on to Jody in order to go around Freeland, who's going to stay loyal, and you know that. So anyways, Lavalin is smoke and mirrors. It's all about the court trials that are coming up regarding land and pipelines, and the government wants to win them. They can't win with Jody picking the lawyers. Why? Is it deliberate? Yeah. So they want to get her out of the way, and they did. And they're using Lavalin as a smokescreen because they believe they can recover from a Lavalin scandal a lot easier than a picking lab. You know, you're picking something up. So that's roughly what I got to say. I hope I'm right. Yeah, I am right. Bye.